Yeah, 100%. Like, where people go wrong is they'll jump on Pinterest and grab a bunch of images, and I like this and I like this, and then whack that into their place. And it doesn't make any sense. And I'm never going to say that your design means everything, right? You can have a successful space and not get that right. We've all seen plenty of places with incredible food that are busy that have an average interior.
Yes.
But it's those 1%ers that add up that bring more people into your space as opposed to going somewhere else.
Welcome back to our startup series, and today we're joined by Gerrick. And honestly, this is my most exciting. This is the best part of this whole thing, and this is why so many owners get stuck, get lost, and make some of the biggest mistakes that you can possibly make in setting up your new business or taking a business over. For these guys who might not know you, who are we from?
My name is Gerrick. I'm from New Zealand. I've designed 500 plus restaurants, cafes and bars. I've owned 4 of my own. And now I teach restaurant owners, operators, cafes, bars, anyone how to design their own spaces.
So this guy knows what he's doing. He's done it before. He's just been to our Elite Mastermind retreat and he's just wowed the crowd. And we're going to go through what are some of the key things that people need to know. Like, let's do start from finish.
Yep.
What do people need to know?
I always go in big picture to details. It's figuring out exactly who you are, who your concept is, who your target market is, what your business values are, knowing exactly what your offering is and who you're doing it for, because you can do things very differently. Even a bakery can be on a full range. It can be the local welcoming neighborhood bakery, or it can be a world-class best ever bakery. And so understanding your big picture about who you are, and then that starts to step down through the other little details that we start getting down to.
So we're talking about alignment right now.
Yep.
So you need to have all of that sorted before you start thinking about your fit out.
Yeah, 100%. Like, where people go wrong is they'll jump on Pinterest and grab a bunch of images, and I like this and I like this, and then whack that into their place. And it doesn't make any sense. And I'm never going to say that your design means everything, right? You can have a successful space and not get that right. We've all seen plenty of places with incredible food that are busy that have an average interior.
Yes.
But it's those 1%ers that add up that bring more people into your space as opposed to going somewhere else.
Okay, cool. So first thing is, and I'm going to put 1%ers there because we're going to really build off that. So who and what? So that's the first part.
Yep.
Okay, so once we understand what we're about, what's the next step that people need to be thinking about?
Well, then obviously it's finding your space, I guess, or if you've got your space, great. And then you're starting to look at your layout and how that space works. It's your operational efficiencies. And so that determines often how much money you're going to make, because we talked about that last night. You can have the exact same space or the exact size space doing the same number of dollar sales per week. And one of them can make 15, 20%, and one of them can be losing money.
Yeah, and let's elaborate on that a little bit more. If you've never been in this industry before, or if you are in this industry and you've only really kind of worked in 1 or 2 different venues, what you need to understand is that the venue layout can determine whether or not it's ever going to work or not.
Yeah.
I did a podcast the other day and we're talking about upstairs, downstairs venues and like having a kitchen at the back and how much extra labor it takes in upstairs, downstairs venue to bring food up every single time and carry, because everyone wants to sit upstairs because of the view but it just never works.
No, it's a nightmare. Like I told a story last night, and I tell it quite often. Back when I owned my cafes, I had a small space, my mate had a small space. We were both doing 20 grand a week, $1 million a year. And mine was super efficient, everything in the middle, coffee bar, kitchen in the middle. We could share the work. His was all separated. To your point, he had a courtyard, a front area, an upstairs space. His kitchen was here, his bar was over there. The dish was separated from it all. And he worked hard. He was constantly improving, constantly changing, but he never made money out of it. He was losing money all the time.
Yeah.
So he was screwed from day one simply because of the space that he had.
Yep. So this here, so important. So size design, what about like how many seats? How does that work? What's the seating situation look like?
I mean, it's critical. And that's an Excel spreadsheet, right? Like you should roughly know if you've done this before, or if roughly what your average transaction value are and how much you can get out of people in one seating, and therefore how many seats you need to hit a certain turnover based on your rent level and whether that's going to keep your rent down at a decent percentage. So that's a personal understanding of your own numbers to determine how many seats you need. I mean, and it's ridiculous to open up a 30-seat restaurant and spend $2 million on it because you're screwed.
You're never going to get your money back.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And you know what happens, and I'm sure like in your very first one, you would have been like that. It's like when you get onto a project,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you end up with like this love and passion into it, and you start making decisions with your heart
Yep.
instead of your brain.
100%.
And then all of a sudden you spend way more than what you ever should have done.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're looking at it going, you chewed up all your working cap.
Yep.
And you're like, uh-oh. So getting this right from the start is super important. So once we figure out who we are, what it looks like, and then we got our space right, what's the next step?
Well, then it's either designing yourself or working with someone else to design it, and it's managing those costs and managing that project after that.
So design.
Yep.
Okay. Design. And then we talk about manage, like, and the build. Yes?
Yep.
Let's come back to design. So when we're designing, obviously we want to design it in line with this.
Yep.
And in line with our space.
Yep.
What's some of like your do's and don'ts here?
Do's and don'ts. One, going back to my point before, it's not just a bunch of random images that you love. Like this process of figuring out your who's and what you are gives you basically a written language to start to work from. Like, you know, these are my values. These are the sort of spaces that or places I'm inspired by, the places that I love. This is what we're trying to achieve. And that gives you a written language that then you can take to Pinterest or whatever you want to use, whether it's a chat GPT or anything, to form a visual language that communicates this. Because it's just like any other sort of branding exercise. Your brand and your logo are trying to communicate something through its colors and forms and shapes. And that's the same with your interior design. And once you've got a collection of images of other spaces and other design, and you can see a pattern between them, then you can just start picking out of those images materials, colors, types of furniture, lighting that you can start applying into your space. And so that's from the visual perspective. Then from a practical perspective, of a financial perspective, you don't need, unless you're a fine dining place, a really fancy high-end space with high-end joinery or millwork that they call in the States. You can create a space that people enjoy being in without spending ridiculous amounts of money. And I'll try not to take up too much space here, but as another part of that, I think there's an unnecessary focus on highly designed, highly expensive fit outs or build outs right now in a lot of spaces, that it's driven often by the design industry and design awards and ego. When
Really? It's driven by ego? And then, no.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So plan it. Don't be random. You don't need to spend a heap of cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be expensive, right? Like these are just expensive, and like I'm talking about the nice stuff, but all the boring stuff is where a hell of a lot of money goes into.
Let's talk about the boring stuff.
Yes.
What do people need to know before? Because right now we haven't even spoken about the lease situation. The lease situation's a conversation in itself. There's a lot to look at and think about. But from a design perspective, this is all the nice stuff. What about the not nice stuff?
Well, the not nice stuff is that's where a lot of the money goes in, and that, to bring up the lease again, like that's almost the foundation. It's the same as my mate before in that other cafe. If your lease sucks and you lease something that's a very difficult site to build in, you are handicapping yourself from day one.
Yeah. So what you don't see, so like the range, like
So you got mechanical. So or HVAC. So that's taking dirty air out from your kitchen, out of your bathrooms, and bringing fresh air into your space. You got fire protection. Obviously needing to protect people from fire. You've got your sewer, like trying to get all your waste down to the sewer. Plumbing.
Yep.
Yeah. The fire protection is multi-layered with fire egresses, how you get out of there. Sometimes if you take over a space, you have to fire separate it from other tenancies, which you don't even think about. You're like, oh, cool, look at that beautiful historic building with all this character. And you go in there, well, actually there's sleeping upstairs and you're putting a commercial restaurant in here that used to be retail.
Now you got to soundproof it, now you got to fireproof it.
Yep.
And also now it's historical, so you can't change certain things.
Yep.
So also the age, obviously.
Yep.
And then, so the plumbing, and then probably extraction.
Yeah, extraction's a huge thing. I mean, where that extraction can go, the path for that duct, the location of that fan. A lot of these things, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they all apply to all buildings, right? Like with most the vast majority of developed countries have fire laws, mechanical
Yes.
laws, and so
Yep.
they're going to be different everywhere. In New Zealand, you have to have your fan 8 meters away from an openable window or door. You're going to have a similar law wherever you are in the country.
Yep.
If you don't know this stuff, or you assume it's going to be fine,
This is going to cost you heaps of cash.
heaps. I had someone go into at least exactly what he did. Went into a great building, exposed brick, heaps of characters. Like, this is going to be amazing. It cost him 150 grand more than he thought
Just on this stuff.
on that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Fire separation, mechanical, and historic.
Okay. Yes. So when we're talking about design, and say we've got a square box,
Yep.
what are some non-negotiables on design that you? Because last night we spoke about lighting.
Yep.
We spoke about sound.
Yep.
We spoke about flooring.
Yep.
We spoke about seating.
Yep.
We spoke about different spaces.
Yep.
So, high level, what do people need to be thinking about?
Again, I look at things from big picture to detail. So we start with a square box.
That's a nice square
Here's
box.
the street. I'll always stand over here and I'll look at what people see, and over here and over here, and what people are looking at from
So
beyond. So, how they're walking up, driving past, all that sort of thing, how they're going to present it. And then they walk up, and then what I always want is people to be greeted, within the first 2-3 seconds of walking in the door, if it's possible.
So you need the counter or something close so people can see the face when people walk through.
Yeah, so there's an interaction quickly. So, within that first 5, it doesn't have to be a hello, it can just be an eye contact and a smile, so that people, when they walk into the space, and then even before that, it's reducing barriers to entry as much as possible. So that communication and intent of what this space is and what I'm going to get out of it. And so that comes down to, street presence, having it stand out.
So they know what they're getting before they even get in.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
That's cool.
some people have the luxury of having cool brands that people want to go to, and you can hide that down a side street.
Yeah, it's like a black door
Yeah.
in a way, and you go in and everything's burnt wood, and you're like, whoa.
And that's sick, and it 100% works if you've got that sort of
Yep.
product. But for 95% of other venues, some street presence is going to bring 5, 10, 15, 20 more people in a day.
I love this because last night Tara brought up, we focus on 1%ers in service,
Yep.
and then we focus 1%ers in our numbers because we know the 1%ers make. But even just talking to you here about positioning the street frontage and the door just so people can be greeted and it's welcoming, that's a 1%er. Is it going to change your life? No. But is it going to change someone how they feel, like that slight amount?
Totally.
Okay, cool. All right. So what's your go-to on lighting? There was a couple of little key takeaways on like separate circuits and dimmable and
Yeah. So what I was alluded to was that lighting can be hard, right? You can go to a lighting designer and get the full thing modeled and spend 15, 20 grand on a perfect lighting 3D model that shows the light levels based on the day parts, or, which the vast majority of people aren't going to do that, just build flexibility into your lighting, which means, if you don't know anything about electrical, a circuit is a wire. So putting different lights in different areas on a different wire, which attaches to a different switch. And so your pendants might be on one circuit, and that all goes back to the switches, and your other lighting for your diner area is on another circuit, and that goes back there. And back at this board, there's dimming switches on everything.
Yes.
So that you can adjust the light levels for your different areas and your different day parts. And then building on that it's very easy these days to find Bluetooth connected automatic app setups that you can set for different day parts, different light levels for different zones. So that's definitely another one. Keeping all of this warm lighting, so what they call like a 2,700K to 3,000K warm lighting.
what's the number for daylight?
About 2,700, about that.
Yeah.
2,000. That's that warm lighting, and then that white lighting you find in a kitchen is 4,000.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the stuff you don't want unless you're in a hospital.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can maybe get away with it with a takeaway burger joint, and it's super bright and it's lit up and it's super noisy.
Yeah, you have strip lights down the wall,
Yeah, exactly,
and
everywhere.
roof, and
Yeah.
the floor. It's great, guiding people into where they need to go.
And I am a fan, like, getting LED strips, putting it under a counter, illuminating it. I touched on this last night, getting as much street presence, making a shop glow at nighttime, having it.
Just think about your business, you're building like an art form.
Yep.
When you're creating something that people are going to come and you want it to be amazing, make sure you use these features to really highlight the bits that you love so people can see it. Otherwise it goes unnoticed. There's nothing worse, you go into a venue and they've got this really cool shit,
Yep.
but it kind of just collects dust in the corner.
Totally.
because it's not lit properly and positioned properly.
100%. You can easily put some track lights on a ceiling. If you got some features on the wall, direct it down there to illuminate and lift a wall. Put some LED strips on the back of your shelving to illuminate your wine collection or your beverages. It just draws your eyes to it, just elevates the space a bit.
Okay, so talk to me about music. Like, what's the music situation? Because last night when we were talking about music, I brought up the fact that sometimes we go in to a cafe or a bar and the weirdest stuff's playing, and it's because whoever's working at the time has a strange choice of music, and you're like, I don't reckon the owner would want you listening to this.
Oh yeah, and it just kills the vibe of the space. Like, your music should align with your concept.
Yep.
You're a contemporary restaurant, sure, play whatever contemporary version of music, but if you've got a regional cuisine from some part of the world, Mexican, Spanish, Indian, whatever, try and connect your music playlist to your offering, and then finding music that is upbeat, has a bit of bass and rhythm to it that creates a, an enjoyable atmosphere. To your point about people playing weird music, if there's no music, or the music in my mind is too quiet, obviously there's a balance there between your customer base as well, right? Like, the oldies want a lower volume, younger people are happier with, a higher volume. But getting that music right really makes a huge difference to your atmosphere. I don't know if you've ever been in a space. Yeah, another
1%, right?
It's another 1% that just gives people another reason to come to you instead of going somewhere else.
Yeah, you've got to understand that there's two sides of a human brain. One's the conscious and one's the subconscious.
Totally.
And while the conscious mind makes the decisions, sees the things, does the stuff, our subconscious mind's there to keep us safe, and has been built over thousands of years. Yeah. So it picks up when stuff's weird or not aligned or something happens. So if someone's coming into your business and something's just off, you're a Mexican restaurant and you're playing rap music and that's not in line with your brand unless you're a Mexican rap music restaurant. Yeah. People are like, they won't be able to put their finger on it.
Yeah.
But subconsciously something won't be right. Yeah. And it's these 1%ers that you need to get right all the way through, because so much in hospitality is about experience. Yeah. Eating food's an experience, everything's experience, and experience is dealing with subconscious stuff.
100%. Like, I can walk into a space because I'm so experienced at this, and I can go, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is what's wrong. But to your point, Jane and Joe public had no idea. They're just like, I don't like it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So music, we spoke about seating layout. What do you think about seating? What's the seating set?
Seating's
big tables, little tables?
Depending on the scale and the size of your venue, if you've got a medium-sized space, some flexibility in your seating. I'm a big fan of banquettes, basically those benches along the walls, because they give you so much flexibility to a space. You can have, if you've got 5 tables down there, you can have 5 tables of 2, or 1 table of 10, or a 4 and a 4 and a 2. And there's nothing worse, if instead you had 2 booth seats there. Yeah. All of a sudden you got 2 people sitting in there, you're just seating 4 people instead of a possibility of 10. Yeah. So that's a big thing. And then I am also a fan of some level of fixed furniture. As long as you've got the space for it, those banquettes, booths, things locked in that divide up a room, it just makes the room feel more inviting and considered, and not just like a conference hall or a dining room.
So like you bang booths in the corner?
Yeah, or a banquette, or you can put a banquette down the middle of the room to divide it up into different dining zones.
I'm getting excited already. We're not even creating a venue. Look at us go.
There you go.
Table here, and we'll put a big table there.
And you've got your different spaces for different people, right? Like just different.
Sorry.
Yeah. No,
sorry. That's my chef. He's real angry. If you haven't opened yet and you've never been in business, get ready. And if you're a chef, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's be honest. And we're joking about it. I'm telling you, it's true. Just so for people who are here going, oh, what's small, what's medium? Well, what do you class as a medium size?
I'd call that kind of 150 square meters, 1,500 square feet.
And the small would be like anything under 100?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sub 100?
Yeah, sub 100.
And then large, anything?
It's kind of 200 plus.
200 plus?
Yeah, it's starting to get larger.
Tell you what, gives me anxiety when you start saying 200 plus. Like they're starting to get into some big
space.
Yeah, big operations, for sure. Especially with like Uber coming through, and and I think you need to understand, if your concept is a deliverable concept, you probably want to think about, your venue design so you don't have Uber people standing in the middle of
Absolutely.
in the middle of your restaurant waiting while people are trying to get past. You almost need a separate Uber window around the back or something like that to keep them out of the front. So you've got to think about these things before you come through. And these are all the things that get covered in what you do.
Yep, 100%. So what I teach people is big picture to details, how to create that concept, or using all the templates I have to do there, and then how to use some simple 3D software to play around with those ideas on your computer screen for free, instead of having to pay either a designer, 10, 15, 20, 40 grand, or screwing it up on site and then having to redo it for another 20, 30 grand.
Yeah, if you're already an operator and you're watching this because you just consume content and you're doing more and more openings, I would suggest do this. And I'm giving you a plug, and the only reason why I give him a plug is because his stuff's really good, is do this, because the more you know about this, the more you can nail every opening.
Absolutely, and the more in control you are, because right now operators, they have that skill gap. They often know what they want, they know what they want it to look like, they know how it needs to operate, but the designers have all the skill to be able to change these things around. So you're waiting and it's difficult to communicate, and they might have their own ideas. If you have these skills, you're in the driver's seat, you're in control.
So talk to me about the build. Now, I think, and the reason why I got on the build is because I'm going to write time here. Time. We're going to talk about time. The first thing is you've got to be understanding about build time.
Oh yeah, it's so important, because when that blows out, you're planning, you're having to hire staff to be ready for your opening. Your time blows out, you're either digging through your rent-free period or you're paying rent, and then you're either having to tell staff you can't employ them, or you're having to employ them for 2, 3, 4 weeks without anything to do. So
I think if you look at, say, build, if that's build time, and this is dollars, what you need to understand is the longer this goes on for, the more expensive it gets.
it really does.
But we've got to be so aware that we want to make sure that this is dead time. This is totally dead time. You've got a location that's not producing money. It's just sucking money up. So the faster you can get this done, the better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when it's coming into build, what's some quick do's and don'ts?
I think the biggest thing is your contractor. Like, if you can, it can be hard to find them, but if you can find trustworthy contractors that have your best interests at heart, then that is going to be the easiest, best possible way of doing this. They have to make some money. There are plenty of dodgy contractors out there, but there are some really, really great people that will look after you. And if they're experienced, that's another thing, experienced restaurant, cafe, bar contractors, because it is very different to doing a house. It's very different to doing an office. You can rely on them to understand the regulatory side of things, the timing that things have to happen. They've got relationships with other trades that they can pull in to make things happen quickly. So of all the best builds, it's always been because of an incredible contractor, and the worst ones have been because of average contractors.
So these guys are going to make or break.
They often do, 100%, and the person who's managing that site.
So let's talk about contractors that are going to make or break you. Let's talk about bad versus good. How do we spot them?
Bad is often the cheapest one.
Okay, so dollars, cheap?
And because, it's a well-known tack to how you win the job is you do a low price or a low bid, then you're in the job, and then once you're in the job, then you bring up the things, variations or change orders in the States.
Which it could be like, I didn't price for the aircon, was it?
That'll be another 45 grand, and then you're stuck on site, and because if the aircon doesn't get done and the ceiling can't get finished, and if you're like, I want to go get another price, that's going to take a week or two to get that price back and to lock someone else in, and that delays your project. So you are under duress to accept that.
Because then the time's going up and they know it. So all it is just, you make the decision. We'll be back when you're ready to go. What else? Good, bad. So cheapest?
Obviously, reputation, talking to people, you can find that out pretty quickly.
Get back to you?
Get back to you. Obviously all the standard kind of stuff that you'd expect from any sort of professional.
I think if you got someone who takes weeks to get a quote back to you, it's a good sign that they're probably going to be, there's a time variance here.
100%.
And then also probably in that contractor negotiation, I would say that you need to get some really tight terms on expectations around build time.
100%. You got to lock in that build time, how long it's going to take. The more thorough the quote, the more or bid, the more thorough the timeline. I'd also like to chuck in one other thing. Like, you got to treat these people with respect as well. Like, it takes them a lot of time to produce these quotes. It's a part of their industry, it's a part of their thing, but you can't just stick people around and expect the moon and then lowball them on offers. Personally, I think it's like a two-way street. You got to be a good person, and then you find other good people. Don't be a dick. Yeah.
Just so true though. If you show up like this, that's what you're going to get on the other end, right? Okay, so get really clear. Let's get really, really clear on our vision, what we want to create. Let's find our space and make sure it works financially. Make sure it works financially, size-wise, seats-wise, which is another conversation in itself. Do you cover that off in your design program, or is that a bit separate?
What part?
The seats and the size, and
it's definitely a part of the conversation in there. Yeah. How do you maximize your space? As a part of it, there's the mentoring from me and the feedback and the guidance as well as part of your design.
So you hold someone's hand all through this design process to here.
Yes. So I train them on how to do it, and then I'm available to either help them in the software or to give them feedback along the way.
After the build, what else do these guys need to know before we wrap up?
From getting it done, I mean, that's basically it.
That's it?
That's how you do it. You go through those stages and then you're open.
And then, you know what happens next? Then
make money.
If you do this right, you start off making money instead of starting off in a phenomenal amount of pain.
And that's why I've set this up. That's why I used to design 30 to 60 restaurants, cafes, bars at a time. I had a whole studio. This is the gap. The operators need these skills, because even me running that studio, we were running so many projects. You're separated from the financial pain of the problems showing up and going wrong, and operators are the only people that are actually having to deal with
all this stuff.
They're the ones that screwed later on by setting this up wrong. Or the build costs go up too much, and you owe it to yourself to get a few more skills, because this is such a massive financial impact to your current budget and your future revenue.
Yeah, and at Foodie Coaches, we really early on, we stopped working with startups because startups never wanted to invest the money up front, because like, oh, well, no, we'll just get it going. And it's like, dude, we could have saved you so much cash just getting it right from the time being. So below in the show notes, your design link. If not, and you're going to wing it, that's okay too. We just hope that you got some value out of this, and this is all about setting up profitable venues for the future and getting started on the right foot. My man, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.